Welcome to Essential Dynamics. I'm Derek Hudson, creator of the Essential Dynamics framework and host of the Essential Dynamics podcast. This is a different episode today. I moved it from a regular Tuesday release to Wednesday because today is Canada Day. And I've got a lot of deep thoughts about Canada. I have the opportunity to present this podcast live from Magrath, Alberta, Canada. Magrath is a special place to me. I'm here for a family reunion, and Magrath is really where my Canadian roots start. My ancestors first came to Canada in Magrath, and this morning I visited the Magrath Cemetery, where my parents are laid to rest, as well as grandparents, great-grandparents, and great-great-grandparents have at least 15 direct ancestors in the Magrath Cemetery. And many of them were new Canadians more than 120 years ago. So that's got me thinking about Canada. As well, on Sunday, in our church service, we had the opportunity to stand and sing O Canada, all 4 verses. It was something that I've done probably every Sunday before Canada Day that I can remember, except for the times as a missionary where I was not living in this wonderful country. So what I thought I'd do today was talk about the words to O Canada, all 4 verses, in the context of Essential Dynamics, and see what we can learn about our country, our obligations to our country from this context. I'm not going to sing it for you, but I do want to read the words in their entirety because I'm going to go back to them and I don't want to interrupt myself. O Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love in all of us command. With glowing hearts we see thee rise, the true north strong and free. From far and wide, O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. God keep our land glorious and free. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. O Canada, where pines and maples grow, great prairies spread, and lordly rivers flow. How dear to us thy broad domain from east to western sea, thou land of hope for all who toil, thou true north, strong and free. O Canada, beneath thy shining skies, may stalwart sons and gentle maidens rise, to keep thee steadfast through the years from east to western sea. Our own beloved native land, our true north, strong and free. Ruler supreme, who hearest humble prayer, hold our dominion in thy loving care. Help us to find, O God, in thee, a lasting rich reward, as waiting for the better day, we ever stand on guard. God keep our land glorious and free. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. While I tend to get very emotional when I sing those extra verses, and I'm it just means so much to me. So, O Canada is our national anthem. I'm going to posit to you today that it's not just an anthem, that it's a love letter to Canada, that it's an invocation, it's a prayer. So I want to look at O Canada in the context of some concepts that we're familiar with in Essential Dynamics. And I want to start with the 3 axioms that are kind of the foundational principles upon which Essential Dynamics, and I think, most truth is based. First one is the idea of natural law. That is, that in the universe there are knowable and predictable laws upon which all things are based. And if we can understand those laws and live based on what they are, that we can be happier and more productive. Now, I find this really interesting as I look at the words to O Canada, because sometimes when we talk about fundamental principles, we use the term true north or a North Star. And that, of course, that relates to the fact that in the heavens, the North Star is fixed, that if you need to find anything geographically in Earth, we use the North Pole as a reference. And true north then, or true north principles, are those that are fixed and immovable and reliable. And in Canada, we talk about the true north, strong and free. So I find that that resonates very much with me, that we can be strong and free as and only as we strive to live according to true principles. The second axiom I talk about is agency. And that is that in any context, in any situation, every human being has the ability to choose. We can choose our reaction to circumstances. We can proactively do things that otherwise haven't been done, all in an attempt to make things better for us and for others. And so as I think about agency and I look at the words of this song, look at this. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee, thou land of hope for all who toil. May stalwart sons and gentle maidens rise to keep thee steadfast. Help us to find, O God, in thee a lasting, rich reward. We ever stand on guard. Those are action words. Those are words of agency. Those are commitments. Those are declarations of a way that we're going to act. We could choose to act otherwise, but we choose to stand on guard. In the face of challenge and difficulty, we choose to stand on guard. So that's agency. The third one is abundance, and that is that we believe that things can be better. And I often talk about agency or about abundance in terms of we can make choices that make things better. But I think there's another element to abundance that I don't talk about as much, and that is that we can rely on divine providence to make things better. And both of those aspects are found in the word "Stow Canada." Let's look at some of the indications of abundance. With glowing hearts we see thee rise, the true north strong and free. God keep our land glorious and free. O Canada, where pines and maples grow, great prairies spread and lordly rivers flow. How dear to us thy broad domain, thou land of hope for all who toil. O Canada, beneath thy shining skies, help us to find, O God, in thee a lasting rich reward. As waiting for the better day, we ever stand on guard. This is a song about abundance. This is a song that both says we live in a blessed place. We live in a fantastic place, and we call upon God to keep it strong and free as we stand on guard. I think that's very powerful, and I'm not surprised to see those fundamental truths reflected in this anthem. Another concept that I'd like to talk about is the idea of stewardship. Talk about that in the context of leadership. Stewardship is the careful management of something entrusted into one's care. And I think that O Canada reflects very clearly the idea that we are stewards, that we have been given something from those who came before us, and we have a responsibility to give something to those who come after us. And how is this reflected? Well, we talk about standing on guard. You stand on guard as a duty. Guards are appointed to stand in positions not of convenience, but of necessity. There's a great lesson here about stewardship when it talks about thou land of hope for all who toil. Now, I don't believe that this means that only those who have jobs are valid and productive members of society. I think there's many different ways to toil, but it is work that gives us hope. And collectively, as we work, we inherit and then pass on a land of hope. I also think that stewardship comes forward in this wonderful line that I love so much. May stalwart sons and gentle maidens rise. A couple of things on this. First of all, I've had the opportunity over many years to have responsibilities in our church organization which has me sit on the rostrum, the stand of the chapel, looking at the people in the congregation. And as I've had the occasion, once a year for many years to stand and sing this line, "May stalwart sons and gentle maidens rise," I would look in the congregation and see my daughters and my son and their friends and my friends' daughters and my friends' sons, and filled with a sense of obligation to them for the kind of the world and the kind of country and the kind of community that we raise them in and then hand off to them, and also to feel a tremendous amount of hope that we are indeed raising a generation that is stalwart and gentle. I also want to point out that in my own mind, while I do have a stalwart son and stalwart sons-in-law and many others that I consider to be sons, were stalwart. I want my daughters to be stalwart, and they are. My daughters are stalwart. My daughter-in-law is stalwart. My granddaughters are stalwart. Many, many young women that I consider as my daughters are stalwart. I also want my sons to be gentle, and I want them to be gentlemen. And so I think that in 2026, when we sing, "May stalwart sons and gentle maidens rise," we consider that in the most inclusive and aspirational way possible. Now, we have this stewardship that is called the Dominion of Canada. And I find it interesting that Dominion, I don't believe it means to dominate. I believe that it implies and invokes a stewardship responsibility. And so I'm grateful for the country that I live in and the sense of responsibility I feel to it. And I am grateful for the principle of stewardship. Another principle I want to talk about is what we call system sight. We often talk about the fact that you can't see the system from inside the system. And so you need something to be able to pull you out of the day-to-day, pull you out of the operations of the system so that you can see the system, you see the purpose, see the system from end to end and get a higher and more elevated perspective. And then that helps us to do our work. So I think that O Canada is written to help us have that system sight. It starts out, "O Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love in all of us command. With glowing hearts we see thee ride, the true north strong and free." It talks about from far and wide. It talks about from east to western sea. It talks about our dominion. These are things where we're encouraged to step out of our particular situations and responsibilities and see this country for what it is. A vast expanse from east to west, a community of people who share common values and have the privilege of living in this wonderful land. And so as we sing O Canada, it gives us an opportunity to step back and see with a renewed perspective the great blessing and the great responsibility that we have. Another thing that's fundamental to essential dynamics, but I've been cautious, maybe a little bit reticent to label it and put it in a spot, and that is the idea of love. I believe that God's love is the ultimate driver of the universe. I agree with Dumbledore that love is the most powerful force. And so let's look at O Canada and think about how it talks about our love of country. Of course, it starts out, "O Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love in all of us command." We also talk about how dear to us thy broad domain from east to western sea. And then it talks about, "Ruler supreme who hearest humble prayer, hold our dominion within thy loving care." So I think, and then the other thing I want to talk about is the references to nature: pines, maples, great prairies, lordly rivers, shining skies. If you love Canada, you love nature. We are a sanctuary in the wilderness. We're remote. We're remote for a reason. And if you love Canada, there's a very good chance that you love nature. And if you love nature, if you really connect with nature, then you love God. And that brings us to the last point about essential dynamics that I want to share. And that is the one function of leadership that I refer to as accessing ultimate power. Now, as I've studied leadership, the responsibility of leaders, as I look at it, is to design and operate the system that the organization uses to accomplish its purpose. And there are 6 ways that a leader can do that, and some of them are active, and others, like sort of the final 2, one of them is guidance. And that is that a leader can be given a responsibility for which they're not qualified. In fact, in a growing organization, no one has ever done this before, and someone has to be the leader. But there's the possibility always of getting guidance from other people. And you'll see that in the hero's journey, that there's a mentor. In the epic tales, there's always a Gandalf and a Dumbledore, and there's a opportunity to receive guidance from someone more experienced and more capable. And that goes a long ways. But I've also seen many, many examples where a leader has been pushed to the limit, and there was only one source to which they could go, and that is divine help. And I call that to be general accessing ultimate power. And I think it's wonderful that O Canada puts it out there in such a compelling way. You think about it, this starts out as an anthem or a love letter to Canada and a commitment. O Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love, all of us command. From far and wide, O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. So we're establishing our love for Canada, our commitment to Canada, but then we bounce over in the chorus to this: God, keep our land glorious and free. So this is an invocation. We're asking for God's help and protection. And then we come right back and say, O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. And I think this is a powerful parallel, and that is that we commit to do everything we can in our power to love and protect and guard this country, at the same time recognizing that our power is limited, but there is a source of ultimate power that we can go to. We see this, of course, in probably my favorite verse, last verse, which I know wouldn't be appropriate to sing at hockey games. It really is a prayer, but it's deep and profound, and it's satisfying and compelling. Ruler supreme, who hearest humble prayer, hold our dominion within thy loving care. Help us to find, O God, in thee a lasting rich reward, as waiting for the better day we ever stand on guard. So we do all we can, and then we put our country in the loving hands of a divine creator and ask for his care and protection. We also appreciate in this verse that what we do here in this country, in this life, is meant to last. There is a better day ahead and a lasting rich reward, which goes beyond our capacity to understand at this point. And as we invoke our Heavenly Father to care for and bless this country, we conclude with, we ever stand on guard. Well, thank you for listening to this. This is something I just needed to say. It's 2026. I want the world to know how much I love my country. There are many who sacrificed a lot to provide for us the prosperity and freedom that we enjoy in this land. They had their quest, and now we have ours. Consider your quest.